the community of merchants of Gujarat and Samant Vishnu Sen. What is it called? It is the आचार स्थिति पत्र. आचार स्थिति पत्र का मतलब है कि उस इलाके में जो भी टैक्सेस और लॉज फॉलो किए जाते थे उनको कोडिफाई करके इस आचार स्थिति पत्र में डाला गया है. ये कॉपर प्लेट पे अंकित किया गया है. What does it say? Some of the sample provisions. It has over 60 provisions. Some provisions are property belonging to a person who had died without a son should not be confiscated. And you find this rule in so many charters across the country that if the grahak does not have sons of his body, he should still have the right to bestow his property as he thinks fit. Officials should not have the right to forcibly enter private houses. A false or negligent suit should not be entertained. Nobody should be arrested on mere suspicion. Today we talk of Article 21 that nobody can be deprived of their life and liberty without due process of law. Well, this charter of Vishnu Sen has that provision which says कि मुझे सिर्फ आपके ऊपर शक है इसलिए मैं आपके घर में घुस के आपको अरेस्ट नहीं कर सकता. उसके लिए आपको कोई न कोई एविडेंस चाहिए. हम महिलाओं की बात करते हैं. इस चार्टर में ये भी प्रोविजन है कि बीवी को हस्बैंड गिल्टी है इसलिए अरेस्ट नहीं किया जा सकता. अलग अलग आइटम्स पे टैक्स रेट्स डिफाइंड है. इट सेज क्लियरली ऑन अ बैग ऑफ व्हीट, ऑन अ बैग ऑफ राइस, ऑन यूटेंसिल्स, हाउ मेनी सिल्वर और कॉपर कॉइन्स मस्ट बी पेड. एंड इफ यू आर गोइंग फॉर अ रिलीजियस पर्पस देन देयर इज अ कंसेशन व्हिच इज गिवन ओवर देयर. These are just two of the most well-known examples. I cite these examples over here because they are included in so many history books which I assume that you have read. But there are many that are distributed all over the country. So friends, when we say that the Constitution of India is the Adi Vastu, what we mean is that the Constitution is much more than the relationship between the people and the state. It defines our civilizational values. It defines how we behave with each other. और आप किसी भी क्षेत्र में देखें आपको ये दिख जाता है. Just the other day, I saw this video on YouTube. आप लोगों ने भी शायद देखा होगा. It was about an interaction between an officer at the toll naaka and a fellow in a government vehicle. That gentleman was refusing to pay the toll. He was saying, you know, मैं सरकारी हूँ, मुझे टोल देने की जरूरत नहीं है. और टोल ऑफिसर ने उसको रोका और उसको बोला सर ऐसा नहीं है. ये जो मेरे पास कुंजी है जिसके अंदर रूल लिखे हैं उसके हिसाब से आपको टोल देना पड़ेगा. पूरा YouTube पे है. So that discussion went on for 15-20 minutes. That toll officer did not lose his cool. He was not rude. He told that fellow, sir, I entreat you, you must pay the toll. Government does not mean that you don't have to pay the toll. And at the end of 20 minutes, there was a huge queue of passenger vehicles and buses over there. Then that toll official told that gentleman, sir, you are blocking the road of everyone over here. आप उनको आगे नहीं जाने दे रहे हैं. ये बहुत रूड बिहेवियर माना जाता है. कृपया आप अपना टोल दें. तब जाके वो सरकारी आदमी को शर्म आई और उसने पैसे दिए और वो आगे गए. The point is कि इस तरह का जो इंटरैक्शन है जहाँ रूल कुछ कहता है, हमारे पास आज भी हिंदुस्तान में ऐसे कई लोग हैं जो कहते हैं कि हम उसका पालन नहीं करेंगे. उसके बाद भी जो लोग उस नियम को इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं वो फिर भी कोशिश करते हैं कि भाई हम लोग आपको ये रूल क्यों है ये समझाने की कोशिश करें. और ये सिर्फ रूल की बात नहीं है. आप सब लोग सज्ञान लोग हैं, अपने विवेक का इस्तेमाल करें. यू कैन सी दिस वैल्यू ऑफ कंसेंसस एवरीवेयर, व्हाटएवर लीगल स्फीयर दैट यू सी इन इंडिया. My suggestion to all of you young people is that you should use your viveka. Don't depend on received wisdom. Whatever I have told you today, All this information is available on the internet. चार्टर ऑफ विष्णु सेन का जो ट्रांसक्रिप्शन है वो भी इंटरनेट पे अवेलेबल है. जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के डिबेट्स हैं वो भी इंटरनेट पे अवेलेबल है. जरूर वहां जाएं, पढ़ें, अपने आप अपना विवेक का इस्तेमाल करें और उस हिसाब से निर्णय लें कि इंडिया में डेमोक्रेसी की क्वालिटी क्या है. आज ही मैंने पेपर में देखा, और देखिए, जो भारतीय नहीं है, जो हिंदुस्तानी नहीं है, उसे फ्रीडम है कि वो आपको क्रिटिसाइज करे. इट्स अ फ्री वर्ल्ड. ही कैन एक्सप्रेस एनी ओपिनियन. वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू से कि भाई आप हमें क्रिटिसाइज ना करें, पर जो वो आपके बारे में कह रहा है, आपके ऊपर जजमेंट डाल रहा है, आपको उसकी बात को सोच समझ के ही देखना चाहिए. आज ही के पेपर में खबर है, एक एनजीओ है ह्यूमन राइट्स वॉच करके, वो पूरे विश्व के ह्यूमन राइट्स का कस्टोडियन अपने आप को मानता है. उन्होंने अपने जो रिपोर्ट 2023 की वर्ल्ड ह्यूमन राइट्स की रिपोर्ट छापी है, उसमें उन्होंने कहा है कि इंडिया का ह्यूमन राइट्स का रिकॉर्ड खराब है. और उसमें ये भी कहा है कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, यूनाइटेड किंगडम एंड द यूरोपियन यूनियन, all these three formations are reaching out to the Indian government in the interest of trade, in the interest of Indian security, and that they are not paying attention to abuses of human rights in India. Not only that, the paper also says that Human Rights Watch has cautioned businessmen from investing in India, and they have said that people should think twice before shifting their production from China to India because of this. देखिए, ह्यूमन राइट्स वॉच हैज एवरी राइट. हम वो हिंदुस्तानी ऐसे लोग नहीं हैं कि किसी को जाके बोले कि तुम ये मत बोलो. वी डोंट से दैट, बट you as Indians should take your own call on how democratic we are, and please look at information. Don't go by opinion. I completely disagree with the previous speaker when he said कि महिलाओं को वोट करने का अधिकार दिया नहीं जाता. मित्रों, 2019 लोकसभा इलेक्शन के आंकड़े हैं, आप लोग जाके देखिए. इन 2019 for the first time since 1947 more women than men have voted in Indian history. It is a record. When you look at the coverage of the Uttar Pradesh assembly elections last year, you will find that there are channels, so many channels, so many commentators, so many politicians, जो कि कह रहे हैं महिलाओं को आप आके हमारे लिए वोट दीजिए. And the pitch that they give to women voters is very different from the pitch that they give to men voters. And for the first time, you had so many discussions on this theme. So when we say कि महिला oppressed है, मैं भी महिला हूँ भाई. आप अपने आप देखिए ना. Before this, I was there in the National Commission for Women, and whenever we interact with people, we ask them कि भाई, is anyone in your family oppressed? They would say no, but then I would ask them, in that case, why do you express this opinion that women are oppressed? Then that person, very often these are women, who would say, we are a very educated class of people. In my family, women are not oppressed. But I am sure, I have read in the paper, there will be others who are oppressed. Please make up your mind on the basis of the information that is available. The Indian state has done everything that is possible to protect the rights of people. They are there. Look at the information on the ground and take a decision on the basis of that. It is you in the end as a people who have to be conscious of your own values, and you have to be prepared to defend those values. And that can only happen अगर हमें अंदर से लगता है कि हमारे देश में सचमुच लोकतंत्र है, हम उस लोकतंत्र का संरक्षण भी कर सकते हैं हर तरीके से. और ये जो हम ट्रेडिशन ऑफ नेगोशिएशन की बात करते हैं कि often there is a negotiation that goes on over rights and democracy between between the state and people. It is not just that it is there in our past. When we talk about the making of the constitution, when we talk about the charter of Vishnu Sen, even today in 2023, we can see that that spirit is very much alive. Insurgency, the Assam insurgency. India is perhaps the only country in the world that has successfully resolved the problem of insurgency. And a very interesting piece of information over here. On August 3, 2015, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, IM fraction, this was the largest of the 7 Naga insurgent groups. They announced a historic peace agreement with the center, agreed to create mechanisms for greater autonomy for the Naga tribes. On that very same day, the Naga leaders asserted that they were a separate people. They didn't see that there were any contradiction between these two positions. So, here were the Nagas who were saying, and that is only one of the many examples of many insurgencies across the country. Look at Punjab. They have been peacefully resolved by a process of dialogue. That is what Indians are very good at. They are very good at a process of dialogue. Finally, I would like to say this to you, that democracy in India survives not only because of the constitution, but because it represents the values of consultation and governance by consensus. Friends, when do nations become great? Nations become great when they share a vision of what they have achieved, what they have contributed to the world. It is when we acknowledge our own traditions of democracy, our own traditions of peace, our own traditions of conflict resolution, that we become capable of providing leadership to the world, that we become capable of standing forth as a great nation, as a united nation. Thank you, Jai Hind.
I think with that, we can have one more huge round of applause for Meeta ma'am for this wonderful session that we had. Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening everybody about self-esteem, also giving so much of awareness and highlights about Constitution and creating awareness in youth as well. Because जागरूक युवा ही कहीं ना कहीं जागरूक भारत और सक्षम भारत की एक पहचान है, हम ये कह सकते हैं. तो एक बार जोरदार तालियां मीता मैम के लिए हो जाए. And now I would like to welcome on stage Shri Pratap Lingaya sir, State NSS officer, to kindly present a memento to Meeta ma'am. I would also like to welcome on stage Shri Khabri Narsimhaiah sir, Regional Director of Bangalore, to please come on the stage and kindly present the memento to Meeta ma'am. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Meeta ma'am. And without taking much of time, can we all once again say a huge thank you to Meeta ma'am as she is leading the session, but it was wonderful having her today with us on the 26th National Youth Festival. It was wonderful having you with us, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you all of you. It was wonderful to interact with you. I had some other engagement, but I am sure that we can continue this conversation elsewhere also. Thank you.
And as we proceed towards our session, I would like to invite our speaker for today, Dr. Arvind Chinchure sir. Can we have a huge round of applause as we continue with the session? A very warm welcome once again, sir.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. Very good morning to all of you. Those who have come from other states, namaste. Welcome to this beautiful town and city, Hubli and Dharwad. And some of you, if you are coming here first time, let me share that this is a place where legends are born. Doesn't matter whether it is art, culture, music, even to an extent of entrepreneurs. So this is a place, it's a very, very holy place in that sense for all of us. We heard two very brilliant speakers. Geeta ma'am shared and enlightened with us why India is the mother of democracy. Our moderator, Dr. Basaraju, brilliantly shared grassroots democracy and many other dimensions of democracy. Let me make 3 points because the time is less. I have only 5 minutes allotted, but let me share what has been the outcome of democracy, what has been the power and result and impact of democracy in India. There are 3 fundamental things that I see India differentiates with other countries. All of us have traveled all around the world. But India is a very unique nation, it's a unique country. And why India in a recent time is respected in the world? Because fundamentally there are 3 pillars why India is different from other nations, other countries and other regions. The first thing is our unique diversity. If I just look at all of you, there is so much of diversity I see. How many countries in the world have the kind of a diversity that we see? Again, the diversity is in everything that one can think of. In every parameter that you look at, there is a diversity in India. But what makes diversity so important for any nation or any region is that this diversity can create newer ideas. This diversity brings a lot of creativity. Fundamentals of creativity is that demography is such a powerful weapon. Demography is such a powerful weapon or a tool or a strength that we have even compared to the natural resources. If you look at several countries, their population is 10% of our youth. That's the kind of power that we have in youth. Youth creates productivity, increases productivity. Youth takes us to the economic growth and many other things. And many nations don't have that advantage. We have that advantage. And the third biggest differentiation is that in spite of having all this diversity, we are a democratic country. We have never ever let down the democracy, except maybe a year or so in these 75 years. Democracy has been, in fact, for many countries, if you go, they say it's a miracle. How can democracy work in such a diverse country and like such a big country? So we are a very, very vibrant democracy in India. So these are the 3, my mentor says, it's a 3D of India. Biggest differentiation that we can have as a nation. Now, what this democracy has brought to the India in the recent time, I call this as a new India. When I look at you, all of us, we see a new hope, new possibility, new opportunity, and that I call it as a new India. And how do I describe this new India? For me, it's very simple. New India I can describe as NE, New India is equal to A multiplied by C multiplied by E. So this is the ace of India, or ace of the new India. When I was growing up, we were struggling for survival, for existence. You know, if I ask my father what is his dream for his son, he will say, can he get a job in a bank or a post office? That was the only biggest dreams that I used to see and hear when I was growing up. But today, these dreams are very different. These dreams are, how can I change the world? How can I bring difference to the people, society, and so on. So what makes that possible in the new India? It makes that possible because of three important things: A, C, and E. What is that A? Why India is so different is because India is the most aspirational society in the world. All of us have a great aspiration to do something, to do for us and to the family, to the society, and many other reasons we have that aspiration to do something. That's the biggest thing. But aspiration alone is not sufficient. Along with the aspiration, we need access. Today in India, we have access to the talent, we have access to the technology, we have access to the capital and many other things. So that combination of aspiration, that dream, that desire, that drive with access make a very big difference. The second in the equation of a new India is C. C means it's a courage. Indians have a courage. But just having the courage is not sufficient. Along with that courage, we need to have a capability. And today, Indians have that capability. It's not only about having that desire, that aspiration, and access, and also the courage to take that risk, the courage to create something, solve the problem. That courage is backed by the capability, and that is very, very unique for India. The third is E, that's an ace. In the ace, E is about India, which is entrepreneurial nation. Look at the kind of entrepreneurship and startup culture that we have built, and today there are so many startups. During COVID, we made them or they became billion-dollar companies. It doesn't matter that where these startups come from. They come from a small, even from Google and Harvard, there are many, many good startups that have come. That is our ability, entrepreneurial ability, but that entrepreneurial ability is backed by the ecosystem. The ecosystem that is supporting entrepreneurial youth. And if I look at Harvard Google Deshpande Foundation that I belong to is catalyzing and has catalyzed that ecosystem. So this ACE is the new India. And that is going to make a difference. But many of you may say that this might exist in other countries. The difference again is that as Indians, I have seen as youth, in spite of challenges, we don't complain. And that's the fundamental basis. We always try to find the solution, and that is the outcome, that is the result, that is the impact of having democracy in India. Last point I want to make and conclude is that what is our shared future? What should be our shared future? And this shared future is going to be dictated and determined by the youth which is sitting here. And that shared future, that shared vision for the nation should be that it has to be inclusive. Because sometimes development cannot be achieved. Only rich people are becoming richer and poor people are becoming poor. That is not going to be sustainable. It's very, very important for us is how do we do inclusive development, which means that poorest of poor person in India should have the same access, same opportunity, bring them up in the mainstream of economic development and so on. That's important. Our state future is about sustainable development. If we cannot have a development which is based on one particular criteria, now today if you look at the world, we are talking about sustainable living, and India knows how to sustainably live. Sustainable progress, sustainable growth is very, very important. And there are many other shared future that we can think of when it comes to making this nation, this great nation, a developed nation. And I know, I'm very confident that by 2047, when India becomes 100 years, with the pillars of diversity, democracy, and demography, and these ACE qualities that India has, we will become the most developed nation in the world, and India will make significant contribution to the well-being of the world. And this is our opportunity, and that's what Prime Minister said, it is the century of India. With these words, thank you all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arvind. Now I request the second panelist, Amit Amana, to take over.
Definitely, so let's have a huge round of applause and welcome our next speaker, Mr. Amit Amarnath. Meanwhile, I would also like to mention that post that, we'll have a small discussion. I request our dignitaries on the dais to take a few minutes to have a panel discussion, and also all the audience, kindly be ready with your questions. Please welcome Mr. Amit here.
A good question to be rewarded. I think the organizers have already informed those who ask very interesting, brilliant questions will be rewarded. Don't ask me what is the reward, but they'll certainly give you.
Everyone, namaskar. To start with, by the people, for the people, of the people. Of the people and for the people, yes. To strive to make it by the people. How? Even though we live in a participative democracy, we look at it in a way as if it is a representative democracy. We vote our elected representatives and we leave it to them. But after that, we don't participate in the process of democracy. So if any society has to, grow and progress, then active participation from the citizens is the key towards that. So, just give you, let me just ask you one question. Government, sorry. Public property or government property belongs to whom? Sarkari aasti yaar se rete? Anybody? Great. Most of the times when I ask this question, people tell me it belongs to the government. Now, what is government? Who is government? Government is nothing but the representatives of people. So it belongs to all of us. Until and unless we don't have a sense of ownership, it is very difficult to build a strong society at large. So, and moreover, democracy is not a spectator sport. It is a participative effort, and each and every citizen has to participate. Irrespective of how small your contribution is, it is really very important that you contribute something at least. Say, for example, on the day of election, when the government announces it as a holiday, it is so that people can go out and vote, but most people go on picnics. And the next 5 years they spend cribbing about things that are not right. So when you have the opportunity, exercise it. And only by doing this, we can build a strong society. And recently we celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. It was no doubt a great celebration, but also it is a reminder for all of us that in the next 25 years we'll be completing 100 years of independence. And the role of today's youth in nation building is going to be very, very, very important. So I urge you all to take a pledge to spread the awareness regarding participative democracy and also participate in this process of democracy and spread as much awareness as possible. And I guess that's about it. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you. Amit, that was short and very while I wait for your questions, whether audience ready with questions? Okay. So while I request others move down around to have questions, but until then, I have a couple of questions being the moderator of this session to Dr. Arvind Chinchuleji. Again, I would like to draw his attention to what I quoted in setting the context, what Babasaheb Ambedkar said. The true democracy, the political democracy cannot last unless there lies the base of the social democracy. What he means by, again, Babasaheb Ambedkar go on explaining what does he mean by social democracy.
He says it means the way of life which recognizes liberty, equality and fraternity as the principles of life. Sir, any thoughts for us to uphold the spirit of social democracy in the country?
So this is my belief and my understanding about social democracy. As we heard that being democratic has been part of our life, it's a way of life. I think in the last 30 or 40 minutes we heard so many references from many different texts and many different eras of India. So fundamentally, I see that we as Indian civilization were very, very democratic as a way of life. We have to run this as a way of life. You know what Mr. Ramanath said about this thing. But why we are discussing today about having that social democracy at the social grassroots and so on, the reason for this is that in the last, whatever, 300 years or so, we went through a different kind of influence because we were ruled. And under this rule, so always I say in my talks is that if you look at Indians and Indian genes are very different. But these genes, because of the influence, outside influence, they were masked. They were masked, and then all these different things started happening, possibly. What is happening today in the recent time is that we are unmasking and we are unleashing or we are uncovering the original genes of India. And it's a process. You cannot do this. When I say there is an ecosystem, what ecosystems are trying to do, I say sometimes catalysts, they are acting like genetic engineers. You know, they are thinking, boss, you have such a civilization, you have such a natural DNA. Why we are acting like this? So it is a journey. I think even if I look at it in the Western world, I mean, I can give some examples. When there is a scarcity, of power, resources, believe me, where their democracy goes, they are like any other, they are fighting, they break the rules and so on. So that's what the phase as a nation we have gone through in the last few hundred years. And now we are changing that. And now if you look at this youth, they don't have that baggage, right? They don't have. They say that, okay, all of us are equal. Even in the context of villages, if they see something, they say, this is not fair. We should not be doing. They are teaching. Elders, they are teaching their parents and so on. I think we are going through this change. We are going through this process. But this youth, this empowered youth, educated, learned, well-informed youth will bring that change. Just wait for another maybe decade or so. I think this problem will not. We will have the liberty. Doesn't matter which section of the society.
Thank you. I would like to know this from Amit because I know Amit works with youth a lot. I like your work and admire the effort you are putting to bring change by involving youth. But also my concern is while we can be proud about our demographic dividend, like the recent statistics which I quoted, which is about youth participation in government, youth participation in civic engagement, is very distant. While I also work with youth, trying to involve them in policies, in government, etc. What is your suggestions in terms of how to encourage more and more youth to make them socially responsible and engaged?
So I believe that academically it has to be inculcated because just to quote an example, in engineering colleges there is something called as AICTE points. So it is an academic requirement for them to participate in social causes or work with some NGO and get a certificate which will earn them some points academically. So we can see a lot of engineering students participating in a lot of social causes. So I think similarly it has to be introduced to other departments as well. So this is one way of getting youth to involve themselves in social causes and also to work towards the society. I somewhere feel that until and unless there is no incentive, you can't really push somebody to do something. So I think to involve youth, I think academically it has to be used. That's my take.
I think with the new education policy, we are approaching towards that. We are giving a lot of importance for all this social engagement in the education policy. Yeah, with this, I would like to open the floor for audience questions.
Okay, we already have the volunteers, so volunteers requested to please help with your mic. And I request whoever is asking the question, kindly mention your name and then your question.
I'm Amrish Chandarana, I'm a chartered accountant from Telangana. Yeah. So my question is like when we all the speakers, eminent speakers were talking about things which we had in the past, like how this democracy has evaluated from the earlier periods. So is it not important for us to say to the youth like what we had in the past? Because as and when the time is moving, we are like forgetting things because not many of the children today they know about how this thing has been evaluated. Like what were the previous, like madam was talking about the Vishnu Sena, charter of Vishnu Sena. So very few people know about it. I being in my 40s, I am not. I am hearing it for the first time. So is it not important to inculcate our history in the education as well as the entrepreneurial things that we are doing today?
Yeah, I'll start that. It's very important. Again, I look up to the new education policy. Why I say that? That is one thing very historic of a lot of time. We are trying to kind of understand what is the country really needs. And it talks about informing the India and Indianness. Your question is more of a suggestion. I think already the policy decisions have been taken. And look at this
Government has to do it, or some, organization has to do it. It's with us. Let's do it.
I strongly recommend our youth to go through a book called, the same title is India is Mother of Democracy. It's an edited book. It's wonderfully captured the history and democracy, the evolution of democracy in India.
Respected sir, Brahmanpur, Madhya Pradesh. Sir, my question is, election is the largest festival of Indian democracy. But why Election Commission of India not fix set of value of election? अगर कोई व्यक्ति सांसद बनना चाहता है तो वो व्यक्ति करोड़ या लाखों रुपए इलेक्शन में खर्च कर सकता है, लेकिन वह दूसरी ओर एक यूथ लड़ना चाहता है तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया क्यों एक फिक्स अमाउंट फिक्स नहीं करती कि इतनी समय सीमा तक इलेक्शन में अमाउंट खर्च करना है? आखिर इसको फैसला क्यों बनाया जा रहा है? आखिर जो अंत्योदय हम बोलते हैं समाज की अंतिम पंक्ति में खड़े व्यक्ति का उदय हो, तो अंतिम पंक्ति समाज को रिप्रेजेंट करना चाहता है, पीपल्स की करना चाहता है, तो उसको क्यों नहीं मौका मिलता है? क्यों इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया एक अमाउंट सेट नहीं करता है? थैंक यू सर.
I think the election commission already has a certain amount fixed, which the candidate cannot spend over that. But it is difficult to monitor. Few things happen. I don't think it's the right podium to discuss this, but few things cannot be monitored. But there are rules, there is a law. But how effectively that is being implemented, that is the question.
I'm a physicist, by the way. I'm not a democracy expert, but I'm just sharing as a citizen. See, आप कह रहे थे कि समाज है. ये समाज क्या है? कौन? हम सब लोग हैं उसमें. जब समाज अवेयर होता है, समाज दिखाई एग्जाम्पल्स क्रिएट करता है. हम क्यों ना एग्जाम्पल्स क्रिएट करें? क्यों ना हम एक कैंडिडेट है, उसका इनकम कुछ भी नहीं है, और उसको हम इलेक्ट करें. कौन स्टॉप करता है? आप मेरे और आपके साथ वो पावर है ना, वो कोई दूसरे के पास पावर नहीं है. तो जब हम समाज, जब तक हम चेंज नहीं हो जाएंगे, जब तक वी डोंट चेंज, वी कैनॉट से दैट ओ दिस इज गोइंग रॉन्ग. जब समाज एग्जाम्पल्स क्रिएट करेगा, nation will change. So though I'm saying I'm just a citizen, I'm sharing. So we have equal, I think what you said, it's a participatory, what you said, we have to play the game, right? We have to be, if as a samaj, as a community, as a person, if I'm indifferent, these things will keep happening. We will have something else on this thing. Let's be aware. So you are the youth who are going to make that change happen, and I'm sure you will make that change happen. You will elect people who doesn't have the money, or this is not just purely because of the money.
Definitely. It's all about you be the change, you take the initiative and the world will follow you. I will request all the students and everybody who's asking questions once again to please mention your name before you ask your question, and also one best question will be awarded today. Bring it on.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
My name is Aparna Srivastava and I am from Banasthali Vidyapeeth, NSS volunteer, Team Rajasthan. So, sir, as you were talking about in pre-history, like republic was there, democracy was there, but at a time, sir, democracy it demolished, sir. So now, sir, I want to ask, like, what don't you think that democracy at a point causes instability, sir, internationally as well as domestically, sir? When the politician changes, when the government changes, sir, it causes instability in the country, sir. Like all the schemes, this changes suddenly, sir. So, what is your viewpoint on this, sir?
Thank you, Aparnaji.
Thank you, sir.
That was really kind of a thought-provoking question. But I would like to answer this by quoting Ronald Reagan, actually, former the US president. He says, democracy is worth dying for because it is the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man, or in other words, humankind. Because there is no alternative to democracy. If there is any alternative we can think of, all the autocracy or whatever different forms of government, be it is kingdom, have histories in front of us to show and say how it is not kind of a sustainable concept. And it took so many years for us to bring in, democracy, constitution, make resurface it in our, at least in our country. The 300 years of rule can somehow kind of suppress the democracy and democratic institutions. And it took so much of effort, so much of tyaga by various people, sacrificed by various people to bring this freedom and democracy. I think we should try to make it more civilized, I think, and that is where it can happen by informed citizens, informed choices actually. We should, all youth should participate, like Adolji said, that's a festival of democracy. In that festival, we should always take part without thinking about vacations or going out to elect most, or more good candidate actually, good, best amongst available, and ensure the stability. Thank you. It's in our hand.
Just to add on to that, see, in case of democracy, the power is in the hands of the people. At the end of every 5 years, you'll get the opportunity to decide whether what the previous government did was right or wrong, and you can vote accordingly. Now, the opposite to democracy is autocracy or communism. We are seeing what is, so we are basically we are seeing what is going on in North Korea and China. So, comparatively, democracy, at least you have the power to elect whomever you want, and you can seek accountability. So, I certainly believe that democracy is a far better option. Just that we need more awareness. We need more aware citizens.
Please pay attention here, and only if you use mic will be able to hear, understand. Not only we, it's the entire audience here.
Dr. Bhattacharya, just a minute. Excuse me, sir. Students, 1 minute, please hold on. Guys, after he finishes, hands raised, Madi. We have time for 3 more questions. At random, please give the cordless mic to 3. Megaway choose who the 3 is, and we will close with the best. Thank you.
Sir, but don't you think there are countries which are not following democracy, still they are much more developed and as compared to India or other democratic countries, sir, for example, Qatar or any South?
What is the indicator for development? It all depends on that. If you think indicator of development is all about big buildings, excellent roads, and women not being given the vote to, even authority or right to drive, or do whatever our choice is. If that is the indicator for development, yes, we can accept those are all the much developed countries without democracy. It all depends on the parameters of development.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So, can you please pass the mic to this person? Yes. The one in blue? Behind. Okay. You already have the mic and we can continue, no problem. But please mention your name.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Namaste. I came from the Lord Jagannath land from Odisha. So, first of all, I want to thank you, the management and the government of India for this the huge like the event and the management. So, my question is, ma'am and sir, that कि जैसे हम लोग अभी हम लोग 130 करोड़ पॉपुलेशन है, तो बहुत टाइम क्या होता है कि हमें अपने फंडामेंटल राइट्स ही नहीं पता है। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की हम बात कर रहे हैं, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की, तो हमें अपने फंडामेंटल राइट्स ही नहीं पता है कि हमें कितने मॉरल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हमारे, कौन सा हमारी ड्यूटी है, कौन सा हमारे पास अधिकार है। जैसे अगर हम किसी कानूनी कुछ प्रक्रिया में फंस जाते हैं, जैसे बहुत बार पुलिस के साथ हमारा इंटरेक्शन हो जाता है, हमें पता ही नहीं कि हम उससे कैसे निकल सकते हैं, हमारे पास क्या हक है, हम उसके लिए कैसे स्टैंड कर सकते हैं। तो इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट को कुछ अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारा एक ह्यूज पॉपुलेशन है 130 करोड़, के लिए भी कुछ करना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट को अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करना चाहिए, कुछ मोरल ड्यूटीज और कुछ जैसे कुछ अगर द नॉर्मल पीपल अगर कुछ फंस जाते हैं, क्योंकि कुछ जो एजुकेटेड पीपल है वो तो जानते हैं हर चीज, लेकिन नॉर्मल पीपल को वो इतना एजुकेशन ही नहीं है उसके लिए। एंड माय सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज, जैसे कि मैम ने भी बताया कि हमारा 66% हमारा वोटिंग परसेंटेज है, और हम अभी मैं भी पढ़ रहा था कुछ दिन पहले कि जैसे हमारा जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एंड द इलेक्शन कमीशन अभी ई वोटिंग के ऊपर भी सोच रही है कि जो 33% लेफ्ट हो गए हैं उनको कैसे हम फिर से अलाइन करें कि वो भी वोटिंग के ऊपर फोकस करें। तो लेकिन क्या सर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को यही सोचना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को यही सोचना चाहिए कि हम सिटी पे भी ज्यादा फोकस करें, क्योंकि विलेज तो पहले से ही वोटिंग परसेंट उनका ज्यादा है, सिटीज पे उनको फोकस करना चाहिए।
That was more like a verdict.
See, it's like, yes, आपका question जो था first reason तो awareness चाहिए. I will give an example. I was once in Gujarat. There was a police station. There was a huge hoarding, and वो hoarding पे what are our rights? But rights के साथ obligations भी आते हैं. We are not talking about obligations, but what are the rights of a citizen? Right in front of the police station. I think that kind of a thing will be make a big difference. Second question was.
It's more on e-voting, whether an election commission.
I'm not an expert. Somebody can talk.
As I understand, it's only a progressive thinking by Election Commission of India. It is not the only way to catch your franchise or your vote. They are saying we'll also give an opportunity for e-voting. That doesn't mean that the villagers will only have to cast their vote through e-platform. There will be a regular process will be conducted, but it's an extra effort by the commission probably to ensure everybody.
Thank you, sir. Can you please pass on the mic that side?
Sir, a pleasant morning, sir. This is R. Gurushankarajay from Andhra Pradesh, sir. JNTU, Kakinada.
May I stop, please? Whoever has the mic, we have only 2 more questions that can be chosen. So please be on point and please keep your questions short.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is, sir, as we know that entrepreneurship plays a vital role in the growth of a nation, sir. As we see throughout the world, we have seen engaged entrepreneurs at the age of 12 and 13, 14 also, sir. But in India, even the students in the schools, very few students are know the meaning of an entrepreneur, sir. The mindset of an entrepreneur should be developed from the engaged, sir. I wish the government take steps to develop that mindset from the schooling, sir, so that the students will get that mindset, sir, so that the entrepreneurs will become, sir.
So since this is my space and this is what I do, so you're absolutely right. I think as youth, you should know what entrepreneurship is, and you should be educated and even supported and nurtured to become an entrepreneur. As a Deshpande Foundation, we work with several colleges, and this year, we may not believe, we have touched more than 10,000 students, creating awareness. Then we have something called boot camp. We bring the students to this boot camp so that they can become creative and problem solver. And then we have a launch pad. If you are interested, on 3rd of February in Hubli, you will see a celebration of entrepreneurs who are student entrepreneurs, and some of the best entrepreneurs from India, they are coming here. So the foundation, us, they are working, but I think it should be a kind of a common practice everywhere. New education policy talks about it. There are innovation councils now. I think slowly we are going to embed entrepreneurship as a part of a curriculum. In fact, institutions ranking is based on certain parameters that relates to innovation, intellectual property, and entrepreneurship. That is basically how many startups, how many products, how many solutions that we have developed. So, but we need to do more, I think.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so
Guru,
much.
Thank you, sir.
Guru, just to add,
Yes,
yes, that is your suggestion should, for the response is yes. But if you ask them to define entrepreneurship, the children may not say. But if you ask them to perform the role, they would do it. We do something called Makkala Samte, children's channel, children's market, wherein children beautifully organize their stalls, their market in the government schools.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir,
The only thing is we'll have to facilitate.
government is providing number of schemes for an entrepreneurship, sir. But the thing is, awareness is missing, I think, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I would also like to mention we have another section coming in. You can ask your entrepreneur